Welcome to Selenium training. Till now we have studied till module number 8, that is JUnit with Ant. We also studied Java. We studied how to read Excel files with Java, packages, access modifiers, object-oriented programming. In this module we'll start with Testng and we'll see why Testng is actually used in the market. Why do people use the combination of Testng with Selenium? Why can't we use Selenium as standalone? These are some of the common questions which people ask. Alright, so what I will do is I will now go to this simple slide out here. Okay, this slide tells you that what actually JUnit or Testng does. Okay, this is a simple architecture of a framework in Selenium. Whether it's data driven, whether it's keyword driven or hybrid, modular, I am not talking about any specific framework, but this is a general architecture. That is, on the right hand side I have my Selenium scripts. I have got n number of Selenium scripts, each representing a different test case to execute. Okay, so and on the left hand side I have some Excel files from which I will read the data and all for executing the test. I have got the responsibility of generating the test reports, that what happened in which test case, whether it passed, whether it failed, if it passed or if it failed, what's the error message behind failing, right? Along with that I also have to generate logs, that what happened at what point of time. Okay, suppose your script runs for 6-7 hours, then you need to keep a log, right? What happened at which second. Okay, so to control everything, to collaborate everything, so that the scripts will get the data from the Excel files, the reports can be generated, the logs can be generated, and everything happens in collaboration. We use JUnit or Testng framework. So the scripts of Selenium are out here on the right hand side, and on the left hand side we have the configurations, and in the center we have the controller. The controller is either JUnit or Testng. So in this course you can learn either JUnit or Testng. Don't try to learn both of them. Both of them are similar to each other. However, there is a potential difference between both, but yes, both have the same task. Selenium with Testng is more famous because we get very good reports in Testng, and it is easier to execute parallel test cases with Testng and Grid. Okay, so with Testng, Selenium is getting a little more famous. Otherwise, right now if you look, then in the job market, JUnit demand, you will feel that it is more. But with period of time, everybody is realizing that with Testng we get some good features. Alright, now what we will do is that we will study the concepts of Testng. The concepts of Testng which will help us execute the framework, which will help us make the framework. Testng is very important. It will be somewhat the heart of the framework which we will be making later on in the later modules. Alright, so let's start. The first thing which you need to do in your Eclipse, you need to install Testng. Okay, for that you go to the help menu and go to install new software. Okay, you will get a window like this. Make sure you have the right version of Eclipse which I had mentioned in module number 1. Okay, make sure you have the right version of Eclipse mentioned in module number 1. Alright, out there on the net we have clear instructions on how to download and install Testng. You simply write install Testng. It has to be installed in Eclipse. Okay, you go out here, the first, this link, the first link for Eclipse 3.4, that 3.4, this is the URL. For Eclipse 3.3, this is the URL. You copy this URL. Obviously your Eclipse will be above 3.4. Alright, copy this URL and enter it out here. You will get the option of Testng, select it, click next, and this will get installed on Eclipse. Alright, maybe in between you might get an error. Just ignore that error. That will not be a major error. Some people encounter that. Please ignore that in case you are encountering the error. Okay, so once Testng is installed, how do you verify whether Testng is installed inside Eclipse? You go to Window, you go to Show View and click on Others option over here. Window, Show View, Other, and out here expand the Java folder. You will get the option of Testng. If you get this option, that means Testng has been successfully installed in Eclipse as a plugin. Right? So Testng is something which will control your test cases. Testng is something which is installed as a plugin in Eclipse. Alright, now I will make a new project called Module 9. Right. So now we'll start looking at Testng features. Okay. If you look at the syllabus, the first is what is Testng, installing Testng. We have done this. Now there is something known as Testng Annotations. Alright. You create a new class. There is no public static void main method in Testng. You have something known as annotations. I will create a new class called sample test. Okay, and inside it I will create annotation functions. What is annotation function? It's like this: @test I will be writing, and then I will write the function name public void test application. Suppose this is my function. Okay, now I'm getting an error message on this annotation. If you move your mouse over the error message, you will get an option to add the Testng library over here. Once Testng is installed, you will get this option. You add the Testng library. As soon as you click on this, in your project on the left hand side, along with the Java library, you will see the Testng library. In this library there is nothing but testng.jar is present. Okay, now again you move the mouse over this error and say import test org.testng.annotations. Now test is an inbuilt class in Testng. This is an annotation function. This represents that test application is a test case. Okay, so I will write system.out.println testing application. Okay, similarly I can make one more test method, public void test login. So this will be my second test case. Okay, so I will write system.out.println login test. Alright, so with the help of @test annotation, you can make functions representing your test case. It is that simple. You just need to put an annotation and a function with the function representing a test case can be formed. Okay. Now you can right click on your sample test, go to run as, and select the option Testng test. You will automatically get this option. Okay. When you click on this, both the test methods will be executed. You don't have to worry how this got executed. There was no main method. Okay, don't worry about that. That's how Testng has been built. This all is taken into care when Testng is installed inside Eclipse. Eclipse knows to execute both the methods. If you look at the output below, it has printed testing app and login test. Both have passed. The total test runs were 2, failures were 0, and there were 0 skips. You can also skip your test cases in Testng. I'll talk about it in some time. Okay. Similarly, you can add as many test cases as you can. as you want. Alright, in Eclipse, out here you will get a tab called results of running class sample test. Sometimes you'll get it down below as well over here. What Eclipse does is it gives you a small tab like this, in which you have a representation like this representing that okay fine, both test tab and test login inside the file sample test were successfully executed. Okay, now along with this there is a very good advantage of Testng, that is, if you right click on your folder and you refresh your project, you will automatically get a test output folder generated. Okay, and you expand this folder, you will get index.html. Okay, I'll go to the physical location where this file is present. Okay, these are your HTML test reports. So automatically HTML test reports are also generated by Testng. This is not there in JUnit. Okay, when you run this, when you open this index.html, I have this report generated. In JUnit you have to run it with ant. I'll talk about ant in some time. Okay, in JUnit when you run it with ant, only then the file gets generated. In Testng you can simply generate the HTML reports by running the program through Eclipse. So it tells me that there are 2 tests in the default suite, and you click on the default suite link, it will tell you, click on the results and it will tell you what happened. The test app is passed, login test is passed, everything is green. Now these reports are a little bit technical in nature. They have got like the class names, the package names and all inside it. Suppose your seniors are looking into this report, it's a little bit difficult for them sometimes to understand the report. Sometimes the whole exceptions trace comes out over in this report. So it is a bit technical in nature. Later on at the end of this module, we will see how to build better reports. Those are known as Testng XSLT reports. You have a graph as well in that report. We will see how to generate that report. Now let's see some features of Testng. Okay, now these are my @test annotation methods. Okay, now I want to create a new class. I will create a new, instead of class you can select other. Okay, expand Java. Wait a minute, you will get the option of Testng. Okay, and select Testng class. Alright, new other Testng class. Click on next. Now you have so many checkboxes over here, right? These are the annotation functions in Testng. Alright, now when are they used? Why are they used? Alright, so let me check some of the annotation functions. I'll not check all of them. Okay, I will check the annotation function before method and I will check annotation function before test. Only 2. Okay, and I will give the class test name as, suppose I am testing my yahoo.com website, Yahoo test. Okay, and a Testng class. Okay, package name must be specified. I give the package name as test. Alright, so this class is generated. Okay, wait a minute, I generated it in the wrong place. You right click on your source folder, go to new, other, Testng class, next, browse for the source folder, that is, it's in my module line source folder, and package name test, before method and before test annotations. We'll study all the annotation functions now. Okay, all the annotations now. You click on finish and you have a package test generated, inside which I have new test.java class file. I'll name it as Yahoo test. Okay, and rename the compilation unit. Fine. Now let us look at the code very carefully. I have these two annotation functions which I selected, and I have a test annotation function. I'll name this as test receive mail. Okay, suppose receive mail is one of my test cases which I need to execute. Okay, and inside it I will write some Selenium code which will test the application. Okay, so what we do, we write the Selenium code inside the test annotation function. Okay, now what is this before method and before test for? Okay, we look at it in some time. Okay, I'll create one more test called test send mail. Again, in this there will be some Selenium code which will be testing sending of mail. I am not writing the Selenium code as of now. I am only concentrating on the behavior of Testng, the way Testng works. I need to know how these annotations work. Only then I will be able to make the Selenium code. I will be able to generate the framework. Alright, now I will write system.out.println testing sending email. Okay, and out here in this test function I will write testing. Okay, this is receiving and sending. Fine. And inside the before method I will write system.out.println in before method, and in before test function I will write system.out.println in before test. Alright, now I will right click on my Yahoo test and select the option run as Testng test. So what happens is, you observe the output very carefully. Okay, you open console. Right, so the first line which is getting printed is in before test. Alright, so in before test function, this function with the annotation @ before test, this is, look at the output, and the before test is executed first before executing any other test. Now before I tell you about the output, there is a predefined order. There is a predefined order in Testng in which each of these annotation functions are executed. The first to be executed is @ before test. This will be executed before executing any of the test cases you defined in a single file. Alright, and after that before method test annotation will be executed before executing each and every of these tests once. That is, before method will be executed once before executing this test method, and before method annotation will be executed before executing this test annotation as well. And before test will just be executed once before executing anything else. Alright, now if you look at the output, then in before test gets printed first, then in before method, and then testing receiving email. Right, so before this annotation is actually executed, this is executed and this is executed. Okay, I'll tell you why these are used. Why these are used, you will learn after some time. First we'll learn the order in which they are executed. Okay, after that again before method is executed and then test sending email. So that means before test is just executed in the once, that is in the very beginning, right? And before method is executed before executing each and every test out here. Okay, now what can I do inside before test? Okay, I can do some initialization. For example, I have to establish a connection with database. I can establish it before executing the annotation function @before test. Right? That's a very simple and straightforward thing. Now, before method, what can I do? I can suppose open a browser in this. I can write opening browser. Right, this can open a browser. This method out here can connect to a database. Now if I want my every test case to execute on a different browser, then I can open a browser in the annotation method @before method. And similarly, there is an annotation called @after. As the name suggests, this @after method will be called after the test case has been executed. That is, after each and every test has been executed, this function would be called. I can give any function name. I can give the function name as close browser, like this, and this function name can be open browser. But the annotation should be correct. So I will write over here system.out.println closing browser. So what will happen? The test order, first the database connection will be established, then @before method will be executed and browser will be opened, then the test method will be executed and receiving email test will be executed. After method will be executed and the browser will be closed, and after that the second test execution will start automatically. But before that, before method will again be called, the test will be executed, and then after method will be called. So this combination of before and after is called each time before and after executing the test. I'll right click on Rahu test now and run it as testng test, and I get an output like this. First I connect to the database, opening browser, testing, receiving email, then again closing browser, opening browser, testing, sending email, then again closing browser. So that means as many times as I have the test methods @test annotation functions, that many times before and after method will be executed. Okay, now there is one more annotation called after test. As the name suggests, this will be called as many times as the just a minute, I'll import it. Yeah, this will be called only after executing all the test cases in this class. This is called before executing all test cases. This will be called after executing all. Why am I writing the comments? So that when you download the code, you have the comments with you and you are able to understand. And before method will be called before executing every test, and this will be called after executing every test. Okay, now in my after test function, what I can do is I can close the connection, and out here I can open the connection, right? So I will write system.out.println closing connection. I am not taking Java code over here. I am not taking Selenium code. I am assuming that the code is doing this stuff. I am just taking the importance of testng. Okay, now I will right click on Yahoo Test, run it as Testng test. So in the beginning, if you see the output, in the beginning connecting to DB is called, both the test cases are executed, and in the end closing connection gets printed. And total test runs are 2, failure 0, skips 0. You refresh this project, the reports will be there. The reports are refreshed every time, the old reports are lost. Okay, remember this point. Old reports are lost, so you should keep a backup of old reports. Open index.html and you will see, okay, open it in the browser. I'll refresh this. Yeah, so both the tests have still been executed, right? So this is the very basic example, for annotation functions in Testng. Alright, now there is another annotation which is very important. Okay, like annotation, for example, at the rate before suite. Okay, and I will have a function called public void initialize Selenium, something like this. Okay, in this I will initialize my Selenium object. If you are using RC, or then Selenium object. If you are using WebDriver, then the WebDriver reference, right, object reference. And I have another function called at the rate after suite, and public void shut down Selenium. This can be something like this. Okay, in this I can have my Selenium object or the WebDriver object destroyed. Now, when is this before suite and after suite annotation used? Yahoo test is just one of the tests of hundreds of test cases which we will be executing in different Java files. So if we batch run all the test cases, we want that before suite, that is, if all the test cases are part of one test suite, then the the before suite annotation should be executed before executing all the tests in the suite. For example, I will just make a new class called Yahoo News Test. Okay, this class will be having a test annotation function called public void test news. Similarly, you can have before class, before method annotations as well inside it. Okay, now if I have to run both these Java files as one batch, in batch, right, then what will happen is that before suite will be called in the very beginning of executing both the tests. Okay, now what's the difference between before test and before suite? I can have before test function in Yahoo News as well, like public void xyz. I will give it the name, any function. Okay, but before suite test will be present in just one of the test cases, and after suite. So both the test cases belong to the same suite, right? And I want something to happen before starting the suite, right? So I can use before suite, and I want something to happen after the suite is over, so I keep the after suite function. Okay, how do we run in batch? We'll see in some time. We need an XML file for that. Alright, so before test will be executed before executing all the test cases in particular Java file. The before class, the before method will be executed before executing each and every test in a Java file, and before suite will be executed before executing all the test cases across multiple Java files in one test suite. Okay, so this is executed once before executing all tests in all Java files. So obviously we have to run both the Java files in batch. Fine.